Okay, I was well timed. Good afternoon. This is the February 21, 23 meeting of the Dighton Public Library Board of Trustees, being held at prime time and also simultaneously on Zoom. This meeting is a hybrid meeting and open to the public through the Zoom conferencing platform. Instructions to participate on Zoom were provided on the agenda. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Town of Dighton YouTube channel. Because this is a hybrid meeting, all votes will be taken by roll call by individual members who will state their names when they either make a motion, second a motion, or vote. I'm calling the meeting to order at 4:08. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
Your meeting currently was not posted correctly, and it's a violation of the open meeting laws of the state of Massachusetts. Your agenda was not posted until 1:22 this afternoon.
That's not correct.
And the agenda was supposed to be posted at least 40 hours in advance, 48 hours in advance, and that's according to our town offices.
I just spoke with Town Administrator Mullen, and it was a typo.
Well, I'd just like
Clerk.
to make it known that you're in violation of state law, and this is an illegal meeting that you're holding right now.
It was posted on Thursday.
Your original agenda was not posted.
Yes,
Your
it
agenda
was.
didn't get posted till today, according to the information I've received. I could be corrected if I'm wrong, but I just wanted to make sure that's on the record.
Do we have a way of verifying this, Jocelyn? Do you mind?
I'm going to do it now.
Okay, do it now before we proceed.
Why is this thing chirping?
It is 4 o'clock. Could you contact?
It's because somebody who's on may
Thank you.
have their
Calling
microphone
it to our
on.
attention. Better to know before we start.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
whatever business you have to conduct is
The
legal.
person
Sure.
goes on.
Jocelyn and I were in touch
So
on
they still have their microphone.
Thursday, as we do with the holiday, we post it and so back and forth. The agenda on Thursday afternoon.
Let me check. This has his microphone on.
This is Town Administrator Mike Mullins. For the record, please talk to him. He will give you a
Mike? Ron?
Every time I see the word buffoonery, I hear Chuck's voice in my head and I start chuckling.
Hi, Mark. Okay,
You,
what's that?
no, no, sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mark. Okay, yeah, mistakes happen. Okay. Okay, but it was posted in accordance with open meeting law. It was just an error on your part with the wrong date. Okay, all right, thanks very much, Mark and Mike. That's fine. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It was an error by town clerk, the wrong date. He will, I just had the town clerk and the town administrator on the phone, and town clerk took responsibility. He received the agenda in accordance with the open meeting law and made a mistake in the dates.
The electronic timestamp says it was also posted on February 16th.
Correct,
The
and
original.
that's what he confirmed. So this is a,
So was that posted on time?
it was posted on time.
It was posted on
Yes.
time.
Okay, because the date stamps don't reflect that.
No.
That's the town clerk's error, which he confirmed, and he took responsibility for it. Happy to speak with him if you like, but he took responsibility for it was a town clerk's error. Okay, so we'll proceed with the meeting. We'll take a roll call. Ron O'Connor, Chair.
Rita Russo, trustee, and Hudson, trustee.
Jocelyn Tavares, Director.
First item on the agenda, the February 1st minutes to be approved, and
I
we're
don't
going
have
to
them
table
ready.
that. Yeah. Okay. Old business, the FY24 budget update.
I just wanted to note with all of you that I met with Town Administrator Mullen and the Town Accountant to go through the first pass at the budget. And we should be hearing on our March, we're almost at March, mid-March for a meeting with the Selectmen and Finance Board together.
Okay. Any discussion, any comments about that? All set. Next item is a carryover from the previous meeting, the Outreach and Education Subcommittee. We've talked a bit about this, and we're formulating our thinking about it. I know I am. I see this Outreach and Education Committee having sort of a two-pronged purpose. One is to coordinate with the building committee, the library building committee, about messaging around the new building plans for 207 Main Street. And the other is just a more general, we haven't done this in a while, promotion of the library as a community asset and a community resource. And so I think we had talked about having this as a subcommittee, not composed exclusively of members of the trustees, of course, but as to invite members of the public, patrons and others to be participants. And I don't think we had gotten too far with that. We can talk a little bit more today about membership. I think we landed on a number of 9. Does that sound right? 7 or 9 is
7 or 9,
manageable in terms of quorum and et cetera, because this would be a public body appointed by the trustees. So do we want to brainstorm membership and just kind of refresh our memory about that? At least we talked about having a representative from the Friends, for example. Perhaps Historical Commission of our Historical Society. But I think it'd just be good to get these on the record, and perhaps we could actually start talking about meetings and do some outreach. I think before we do that outreach for the subcommittee, we should nail down a mission and vision, as I just sort of articulated, having this 2-pronged approach. I think this would be an ad hoc group. I think we did confirm this would be an ad hoc group, not an ongoing group, but that would help to support some of the messaging that the library trustees want to do over the next several months. So, all right, so we have Friends.
I think some of the patrons who use the library and some of the parents who use the library and possibly people in town who are interested. And then see what you get for a response, and then
We could have somebody from the historical commission.
Right, that I wrote down in
Yeah.
my friends.
And I think we're looking at other town committees appointed. I think we did talk about having we could put this in the newsletter that we're working on, and that newsletter could invite people to apply. And I think we would follow the process for people volunteering that the selectmen use for other appointments, so we use that same format, and then we review them. Perhaps invite people to come to a meeting to make the case for their participation. I think, again, we want to keep it manageable. I think it would be wonderful if we had 20 people interested and we had to choose. But that would be our preference, to just keep it manageable. What other parts of the community? Council on Aging. You talked about
Yeah,
Council on Aging.
because they,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
possibly somebody from Lincoln Village, because they receive books from the library.
And maybe the schools. It would be hard to get somebody from like the school, elementary or middle school. I don't know does the middle school still have a library? Or was it the elementary school?
I think they all do.
They all do.
They
I know
all
there was a
do.
time when they were converting the
But
elementary
again,
school.
in order to use those
classrooms.
libraries, first of all, most of those books are children's books, and you need to be queried to get into the school.
That's right.
So somebody can't just walk in.
So maybe the PTO, that's what I'm thinking of. What's the
PTO,
connection to
yeah.
the school? I used to be the secretary to the PTO, so you're going to dear to my heart. Yeah, so we get a representative from the PTO. I started to think about, Jocelyn, remember when we did that? You organized that thing with others in town for the showcase. The showcase.
Oh, the Dighton one.
Dighton
Possibly.
101, yeah.
Somebody from, I don't know what kind of student groups they have at the high school, because they're more likely to have a student representative.
Got it.
Which is always a good thing,
Mhm.
actually.
So that makes me think of the Lions Club as another civic organization to be involved in. I don't know if they still have is it the Leo Club, high school?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
He was very active, and then something happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know if somebody took it over. I'll find out. I can find out.
Okay. All right, so let's at least we've got a good list. Let's put together a timeline so that we'll put together, we'll include an announcement in the newsletter of this committee inviting people to apply. Can we get the form on our webpage or a link to that in the newsletter?
Check with the
It's something like that. And that'll give us a little more time to formulate some details about the subcommittee. I just want to acknowledge, appreciate the two of you, three of us, Jocelyn, meeting so frequently, but there's so much going on right now that I think it's good for us to connect on a lot of the business that's happening. And this will be an important part of that work. And I think we also talked about having a member of the trustees serving on as the chair or co-chair.
I think Rita and I probably would want to co-chair those, don't you think?
Okay, yeah, we just have to figure out.
Sure, the
We probably technically have to post that as a trustees meeting as well as a committee meeting, which is fine. But I may take it. So thank you both. Any other thoughts about this?
When we talk about timeline, if we work at the end, like what's the point at which we want to have the meeting, the big meeting? And then we work back from there.
It's a good idea. So first meeting sometime in April or sooner?
I think sooner.
Yeah, okay.
And when are we looking to have the public forum?
And we should talk about that also.
Because that will.
Because this group will organize and plan
Right.
a public forum. That's a good idea. So that may be more in the spring. I think, I'm just open to suggestions.
May, June.
I think we could tap the wisdom of the committee. Timing of that, so in the process, I think. What we're trying to do is empower this group to
Right.
be active facilitators of the process. So rather than it just being embedded in this group.
The thing that's so nice about it too, it's also something that Friends had talked about wanting to not facilitate, but trying to figure out a way to get a community. When we did the
strategic plan.
strategic planning, it was one of the things, if you remember, that came up in strategic planning, was to develop a community group that could at some point become freestanding, like the Friends are freestanding, and to help move things along.
Okay,
It's a great start.
good.
Ambassadors.
Yeah.
The
ambassadors,
ambassadors, you're right, it's an extension of that part of the strategic plan.
The Lions, the Wheels Club is still active, and a
Okay.
teacher at the high school, last name Pacheco, is in charge.
Okay. Right. So I think that there's some targeted outreach here, and so let's just sort of think that through. We've generated some very specific, some entities that would have a seat. I think that's how we came upon 9 people. Take the two of you away, perhaps. That leaves us with 7. We've identified existing groups.
Yeah.
And that doesn't leave many at-large members, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that.
Well, it depends on the response you get,
Yeah,
because you can always put it to 9 and have really 11 with in and out.
yeah.
Easily.
Well, let's think about this, because I'm wondering if we need to designate seats for particular entities, and rather just extend invitations to them. Just a thought.
And then if they decide they don't want to, they don't want to.
I mean, because the list gets long.
Yeah.
You start thinking about what, even when we were doing focus groups, it was, starting to think about, churches, civic organizations, schools, et cetera. You end up with a pretty long list. And we may want to use that as our decision tree, is to say, well, it's good that you some people can wear more than one hat. I remember us talking about that, and it's not so much the hat that they wear, but the connections and perspective that they can bring rather than, yeah, so that's how I'm leaning towards that. Does that sound good that we, do some of that outreach to those entities without naming them as having a seat?
Right.
Yeah, and so these would be largely, I guess I'd say the Friends would be a given. We want to have the Friends, and maybe beyond that, perhaps nothing more. So I think essentially cast a wide net and see what we get, and then part of what people in their presentation to volunteer would include what organizations and entities they are members of, because that very participation helps to define their qualifications. Okay, back to the timeline. Aiming for then a meeting towards the end of March. We've got to get this out there. I don't know if, how much time do we want to allow or need to allow for people to apply. Let's think in terms of, if we wanted to meet towards the end of March, then scheduling is going to be a challenge. We'd have to identify people. It's already the 21st.
21st, that's about 4 weeks to get the word out, make the selection plan, and have the meeting the next week, the end of March.
Yeah, that might be a challenge. We can aim for that.
Not including this week, but looking at next week, 4 solid weeks. It's possible, I just don't know if that's asking for too quick a turnaround.
I think it's hard to get people to commit to a date unless we said at the outset, this is our planned, this is our tentative first meeting date pending, the selection process and people's availability. I guess if we put that out there, then we'd at least have, people have some awareness of that date.
Several reminders, people forget. Probably let it go to the last minute.
So if it is that week of what would it be, the week of the 26th? So maybe it would be an evening meeting because not everybody has to. Is there a candidates night that week?
There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think it might be the 28th,
Which is a Tuesday night.
Tuesday.
Maybe the 29th?
That may interfere with, that's a Wednesday. It's not the best night to plan a meeting
Okay.
because of other meetings in town and space. Monday is probably,
Monday's better? Yeah, I can't do Thursday.
Monday would be the 27th.
27th.
Okay. Yeah. Let's, again, this is a tentative date. It's just for purposes of planning. We wouldn't want to exclude someone simply because they couldn't make that date, but I think that gives us a fair amount of time to schedule it, tentative date. And then we would be able to post the agenda the week before. So we would need to have a meeting. It's the 26th, the 19th. Selection on the 19th.
Does that give people enough, the 19th is a Sunday, does that give people enough time?
I would think it'd have to be the week before that,
Like
the
the
Thursday.
16th or 17th?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not St. Patrick's Day. We might make some rash decisions.
Sorry, I should put my calendar up because the two of you are astute enough to do that. And
Yeah, I can't keep track of dates in my head.
Yeah, I just didn't do that. It's not working. So the 15th or 16th, you're saying that
Right, because the 15th is a Wednesday.
the
and
15th, yeah, because I've got something else on my calendar for that day, earlier in the day, so the 16th?
Yeah.
So that would be the date of the trustees meeting at which you would consider applicants. Volunteers. 16th. And let's see. March 2nd and 9th. March 2nd is next week.
Mhm.
I think we need another meeting between now and the 16th. That's what I'm
I agree.
toying with now. Well, first Thursday is our typical,
Which is the second.
is it the first or the second?
It hasn't been typical.
Hasn't been
in a long
typical,
time.
no.
And the Friends have their meeting on
On
the
the second.
second.
For instance, okay. Then we could plan our next meeting for the 9th.
Right.
Okay. Could we get the ball rolling on bylaws changes?
Yeah.
Particularly with regards to our meeting times, because I think we always have discussion, but I think it might be better to just state that differently in the bylaws,
I can do that.
so we're all over the place. Okay, anything else about the Outreach and Education Committee?
Looks good.
Good, thank you. We're in good shape. We'll get the ball rolling. What I would like to do for our next meeting on the 9th, we say the 9th?
Mhm.
Okay, is, I'll prepare just a rough draft of some, maybe work with you on a rough draft of the, just some general guidance and description. The, rough first agenda, but I think unless you have other thoughts about sort of scope of work for this group, I think that's enough, and we'll have a meeting of the library building committee. Before,
16th, I think.
I don't know if we set a date
I
yet.
don't think
No,
there's.
I'm sorry, that's the other meeting.
Well, obviously, as I said earlier, we want to coordinate the work around messaging around the Smith Memorial Hall with the building committee. Which reminds me, I think we said we wanted somebody from the building committee to be on for continuity. I know I wear two hats, but I won't be having a hat on this one.
How's that for you?
I think we can identify someone. Jocelyn provides the staff continuity. It would be good to have a member, so we can. So I want to put this on the agenda for the library building committee, so that they're aware that we're wanting to coordinate and collaborate with them. Okay, next item, update on 207 Main Street.
Work is continuing pretty steadily. That and the Cultural Facilities Fund grant has been submitted. And I'm working with Mr. Gale on the ALA accessibility grant, which is due early next week, but I think we're in good shape for that.
I haven't driven by lately. How's the exterior
haven't
work been going?
driven by.
Anybody notice the exterior work moving towards the front?
I was by last week and they were working on the east side of the building outside.
Okay. The Riverside.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Work continues.
No, it's moving along.
It is.
and-
Good.
They
I
were
think it
on
was-
Sunday and Monday on the outside.
Oh,
I
good.
think they were trying to take the good weather and
Well, the good weather,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because we're gonna get snow now. You know it.
We couldn't lose the month of March, so they may be grateful. Okay. The CPC application in the meeting last week.
I
Well-
didn't know if you wanted to just talk about that, but you were, everyone was.
Yeah, everyone was
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it was just, the next meeting is in
March 16th, is it not?
Yes.
March
So
16th.
that's why that's in your head.
Yes, everything's in my head. Yeah, it was, it's good to, I think the key takeaway from that meeting, as well as the one prior, was providing the CPC with a tour of the 207 Main Street, which we've committed to doing. I just need to coordinate, we need to do that before the 16th, so Jocelyn, if you and I can coordinate with Mike to make that happen, find a date. Jim Aguirre, I think it'd be great for Jim to be there. Just be mindful that if we have a quorum of the building committee there, we'll need to post it. And I think CPC would obviously do that as well. But that would be the plan. I think that, back to the Outreach and Education Committee, part of that group's charge would be to help to coordinate and organize a tour of 207 Main Street as well at some point in the future. All right. Anything else about the CPC meeting? Okay. Statistics. I was, former trustee Allison Zimbalistli and I always were fascinated by the numbers, especially in the pandemic, like how things went down. But things were it's a good. I find it is a useful historical statement on where libraries are going. That it's and we're not unique, right? I remember Jocelyn, you did some research with other libraries, and things are. Well, circulation as to find folks in and out, folks out, has been declining for libraries over the years. The other elements of a vibrant library are growing. And it's not just the electronic resources, but programs and things of that sort. So, but we've, looking at the graph here, I think we've kind of we have landed on a pattern, which fascinates me. The trend. There's certain months when it's high and then it goes down. We've kind of over the last few years landed into this space where our circulation is fairly stable, and
It's gone up. January's numbers went up.
5%.
Yeah. From the last January, but it even went up from December, which I guess makes sense.
Well, yeah, December is kind of that month where
Right.
there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
So. But we've seen the same with the online, the digital resources.
Mhm.
They're getting used.
Anything remarkable in the digital resources?
I always go back to the investment in ebooks and audiobooks. Is I think I can speak for every library and say there's not enough that you can invest in that resource in order to keep up with demand. And it gets used. It just, I only look at where the demand is to make purchases in that collection, or where people have been waiting for such an exorbitant amount of time. And the average wait is 50 days for those materials. And that's across the board. It's not a Dighton problem. But the collection is getting used, and the more investment we put into it, the more it's used, and it's really hard to, I'd love to reduce those wait times for people in a real significant way. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah.
I've included programming statistics for this month because it's been
That's this week. Yeah.
So even with our in-person programming, we're seeing more participation and more interest in in-person programming. Even with the chocolate program that didn't work out, people stayed and
Yeah.
talked
Yes,
for the whole time. So I think people are looking
I was there.
for that community, for that.
People came in and they sat around and talked and met other people. And there was a couple from the Taunton North Dighton line on 138. They were actually living in Taunton, but they came and they met people and they said they'd be back, and I met some people that I hadn't met in town. Yeah, it was a nice little social.
Good.
That's a whole nother wonderful part of what libraries do.
Yeah.
It's not just books.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet, getting back to books, I can't recall if it was on a morning news show or if I read it, but younger people are going back to reading books, not using devices.
Interesting.
My a conversation I had with a neighbor recently whose sons are in high school. And I remember when I was in high school, the Cliff Notes were,
Yeah.
it never worked. There's a modern day equivalent that doesn't work either. So, but it's good. So I think what we're seeing, Jocelyn, you could probably confirm this in many other libraries, that programming is coming out of the shadows of the pandemic. People are coming out, the restrictions have been lifted and people are feeling freer, people are vaccinated. I was at a concert at the Newport, Rhode Island Public Library on Saturday, and it was this couple that my wife and daughter and I have been following since my daughter was young, and this was their last public concert was the end of February of 2020, just before the pandemic started to hit hard, and so this was the comeback for them.
That's great.
And the room was full. There had to easily been 40 or 50 people in there, a lot of followers and people. So I felt it was a bit of a celebration of the coming out of the shadows of the pandemic.
Well, it's just an aside and has nothing to do with libraries, but musicians were particularly hard hit during the pandemic.
I have one of my puppy people, husband and wife are classical musicians. She plays at the Bach Center and he plays with the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra and the Bedford Symphony Orchestra, and he teaches. And they had, during the pandemic, because I went online to watch it, they had a virtual concert from UMass.
But that's about
But
it. It's very tough.
It's hard. So anyway, well, this is good. Anything else specific about the program or the statistics?
No.
Thank you.
Looks good.
Thank you. I like this chart. This chart. This is posted somewhere. Is it posted online? Do we
No.
use this? I think it's really available to anybody who wants to see it, who's joining us in the meeting. It's just good material for us as trustees to see
I can make it available.
how well things are going. Sure. Thank you. Annual report.
That's
That's town's annual report.
due in April. So I'll be working on that.
Okay. I did talk to Leanne. And so we've got a plan, a photo, and so,
Do we have a date in mind for the photo?
yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason why I was asking about how things are going, but yeah, it's, I think it's a matter of just pulling everything, what the date is April, right?
It's due in April. For the reports, do you have more time for the photo?
Yeah, because I remember
You did.
it's the last couple of times I've done it.
It was after.
Yeah,
It's
I
been-
mean, I think that's the kind of thing they need, not too far before they go to print, so. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comment. So we have We have a couple people in the room and at least one on Zoom. We'll start with anybody in the room who has comments?
I just have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Do you know if the Friends of the Library set a date for the candidates' night that they traditionally hold?
I think there is a tentative date, let me look that up. I wanna say it's the Tuesday of the last week, the 28th.
Yes, Jocelyn, it's Tuesday, March 28th. More information's coming out next week.
Thank you, Zach.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Karen. And then I heard you talk about a public forum. You haven't set a date for that? Was that?
That's correct, we haven't. I think that's gonna be one of the charges to this committee that we're convening is, there's no urgency to that. We just thought, it would, again, part of the outreach and education would involve a forum of the general public, or residents of the town. Spring, I think, later in the spring. Anything else?
Just the statistics that you were sharing, is that going to be part of the meeting minutes that if anyone wants to view, like you were saying,
Yeah,
it's important to show the folks that, need for the library and, the use of what's getting used.
Yeah.
May help some folks in town.
Sure,
I
absolutely,
will do that.
yeah. It's minutes typically or should include a list of the documents that were part of the meeting, so there'll be that. Attaching them is an even better idea.
Yeah, I
Right,
will do that.
we list them, but including them as an attachment is an even better idea, so thank you. Anything else? Anybody on Zoom have a comment? I guess not. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on. Any correspondence, Jocelyn? All right. Friends have an update? I think we stole your thunder by talking about the candidates tonight, Zach, but you had anything else?
Hold on, the video's loading. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, so candidates night is going to be coming up at the end of March. It's tentatively planned for March 28th at 7 o'clock at Dighton Middle School. More information will be coming out about that next week. We have a meeting coming up as well where we're going to be discussing the library project as well, and our intention to submit a letter to the Community Preservation Committee in support of the project that's taking place as well. The other thing I have to report is that one of our members is in the process of coordinating with the Old Colony History Museum a walking tour. I don't know much more about it at this point, but I do know that that's taking place on May 6th. Other than that, I have no other updates right now because we haven't met. We have a meeting next week.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks to you and the friends for all your support.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
I'm just.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the performance evaluation for the library director. The process, just for those who are listening, is that each of the members of the trustees submitted their individual comments to Karen in Town Hall, and she compiled the scores, did a compiled consensus evaluation, which she sent to us recently, and I think we need to do that this week because the deadline is.
Want to turn it in to
To
sign
turn it in, yeah, to sign it, so we'll, has everybody had a chance to read it? I'll entertain a motion to approve it as consensus evaluation as submitted, and then we can have a discussion if needed.
I move that we accept the consensus evaluation of the librarian,
Library director,
library director, sorry, what am I missing?
that's not, just need to say, just need you to say the
Oh,
name.
this is Ann Lyson. Rita Russo, second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consensus evaluation for the library director. Any discussion? And let's start with Jocelyn. Do you have any comments or thoughts regarding the consensus and our comments?
I just have a hard time with the form because I feel like I can't vary it from year to year.
Mhm.
That's my only comment. And that, I guess, is this the place where we make goals for the next year? Do we do that with this process? Or did you?
I think that was my one, yeah, I think we should do that as part of the evaluation, so let's add that in. I think we can talk about that because we haven't had a chance to talk about those. So, and we as reviewers didn't specify any, we typically entrust that to the library director because it emerges from our ongoing discussions, so in our meetings. And so back to discussion. Jocelyn, do you have anything to add? I guess, I've been doing this for a long time, and Jocelyn and I have been partners in this effort for precisely the same number of years, and I continue to be just so grateful for all that you do in moving the library's agenda and its presence in this community forward. And you and your team, and let me be first to acknowledge them, carried us through the pandemic and served the community well. And that was no easy task. So, but I'm just appreciative of not only that for all your years of service to the town. And Rita?
Yeah, I agree. These girls have worked through pandemic, they worked through difficult working situation, and they do an incredible job. And I think people that use the library and us are very thankful to all of them.
Yeah.
And for doing their job.
A good point. I can't speak for the library patrons. I think our consensus evaluation would be supported by the vast majority of the people.
Well, I walk in there sometimes and people not only come in to get a book, but they see friends and then they, talk to each other and, they get to see each other. And I've been down at the children's library where the kids are playing and get little toddlers and the parents are interacting, and it's a community resource.
Yeah.
The thing that I most appreciate about Jocelyn is there's several things, but her intelligence and her quiet strength. She's not bombastic like I tend to be. She's quieter and thoughtful, and she thinks before she speaks, which is not always, but maybe not with
In
some
our
of us.
presence.
But you manage those things that are difficult very well, and I give you a great deal of credit because it's not always easy. Besides the fact that your staff obviously adore you, or they would not have stuck around through thick and thin. And I believe you're also good to them. One, as they say, one hand sort of washes the other. But you are fair, you're considerate. I used to write more evaluations than you could think, and this was one of the more enjoyable ones that I got to write.
It was an easy one to do.
It was. I appreciate your work very much.
Thank you for your support. It's been a rough year, even personally, with lots of my friends.
Yeah.
Good.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's nice to have the privilege of dropping into the library and seeing library staff at work.
Except I got yelled at the other day by Brett.
What did you do?
When I went out, I didn't shut the door, and he said to me, "Do you live in a barn?" And I said, "Well, I used to."
That door is an issue.
I know.
Because I did the same thing when I stayed at
So when
her.
I go in now, I'm going to make sure it's shut.
I did the same thing to her because it happened.
Yeah.
It's always something.
Yes, by seeing their work, I mean, interaction with patrons, people come in, it's just very gratifying. to see.
Sometimes I think they come in, they're lonely, and they come in to see the staff. Just to, just to touch
Touch people,
presence,
yeah.
with another person.
Well, same thing at my brother's place, all these women come in and go, I'm just coming around, I just have to walk around, and it's a place to see people, and, people want to be with people.
They do.
So we have a motion and seconded to approve the consensus evaluation of library director as presented. The remaining business here with regards to this is just twofold. One is goals. And we did not have goals for this current evaluation year. But we want to, if I'm reading this correctly, right, Jocelyn?
I think I had,
You have them.
I had.
Yeah, do we want to talk about them then? Why don't we talk about the goals for the upcoming year?
I don't know if any of them actually.
Revise the strategic plan, review the bylaws, organize a staff training day, and then training online for online resources. So that's for the upcoming review period. Is that correct?
I thought that was some of the last.
So those were the last time as well.
Yeah.
The
revision of the strategic plan is mainly the action plan. We did start that process. I think in November when we had the prioritizing of activities, which probably needs to be reviewed again. Bylaws just gets pushed aside, but now we're bringing it up again.
Sure.
Same with the staff training day. There's just never a day where we're all together.
I think I think I suggested to you, Jocelyn, that we combine the staff training day with a staff appreciation day. So it's a little bit of an incentive that you two are in agreement with that.
We
I
were,
think a consensus would be
absolutely.
good. I think Jocelyn mentioned to each of you individually. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think that's, so if we can arrange the staff training and trustees provide lunch, that'd be a good thing. It's long overdue, so.
Online resources, all the products that we have and subscribe to, I'd like to provide, like there's inherent programming in those resources, whether they're the genealogy resources or our refresher on our streaming video and media collections, and there's just things that we can do. It's just, do it.
Okay. So we all okay with carrying those over? Is there anything new you wanted to add, Jocelyn, for the upcoming review period?
I think that's all.
Yeah, I think those are good, and they're solid. And the only thing I would add is, and it can fit into this box here, the staff training day, and training for, as we've talked about, a series of training program for the trustees. So I think if you just had like staff and trustees training, I know you've been good about, we often don't have time to, but part of it is just training related to policies so that we're getting informed processes with regards to our policies, but just in general. So, and we know, I think we just entrusted to you was give us a list, the assignment, so we can know at a time, a calendar. There's a lot of training resources online, as we know, through through the state and elsewhere, and I think that's all I think that's all would be just some recommendations about, here's some good ones that would be good for us to look at, and we can, a lot of that training will happen outside of these meetings, and then we use the meetings to discuss the takeaways from that, so. Let me just put it staff, and so if you change that to staff and board training, that would encompass a day for staff and a series for the trustees. I think will be good. So what is our preference then? This is part of the discussion of the motion on the table is we didn't have anything specific in terms of our scores on the goals. And I don't know whether we leave that blank. Do we develop have some discussion about that here? You know what I'm going to recommend is that we go ahead with this as is and see, I can check with Karen and see what she wants, because we're meeting again. I would rather not get too deep into this here. I think it would be fair for us to sign and approve this as is, and if we amend it next month, I think that would be soon enough with regards to that. And I have to applaud the approach that's being taken now. This is one of the good things about having a town administrator is, it's no offense to selectmen past or present, but having an administrator who's on top of these things, just in terms of process. I think Karen did a nice job of sort of identifying some different processes across these for department heads and non-union employees, and has tightened it up. So I think that's all good. And it's important for the employee. We have Jocelyn gets regular feedback from us, from me as chair, and this process is important. So with that, motion on the table is to accept the consensus evaluation, approve the consensus evaluation as presented, and that's it. So we'll vote. Yeah.
Ann Meitzen, aye.
Rita Russo, aye.
Ron O'Connor, aye. Okay. And we just need to sign this and get it written.
Oh, that's right. How come Britt can use purple?
Because it's not that
So,
special.
so of course, I was just for the record, because I was interchanging accept and approve, and the actual language is the board of trustees accepts and approves.
Oh, there you go.
So that's the motion, since I use them interchangeably. The consensus evaluation document as written at their meeting on February 21. What I always say, make sure your pages are numbered. Because inevitably somebody's going to get them out of order, like me. All right. I will bring this to Karen tomorrow, and I'll talk with her.
And you'll get the pages in order by then.
Give me time in the meeting, get the pages in order, because it seems like the numbering is on track, and the phones, and they are actually. So, it's good therapy for one. All right, thank you. Upcoming programs, Jocelyn.
So we needed to reschedule a few things, but we have dates now. The historic buildings of Dighton is now March 23rd. The essential oils is April 10th. I think chocolate, I have May 8th on my head, but
Yeah, you posted.
Yes, you did.
So,
did I?
you know,
Okay. We also have, in collaboration with other Massachusetts libraries, in addition, we have, the virtual job series that are meeting almost every Wednesday till June. But we also have, a collaboration with virtual national parks that are looking at, like, the Massachusetts specific, parks that, there was a specific word that they used that wasn't the park itself, but it's basically the parks. So some of the places they're looking at is, the Longfellow House, and particularly where George Washington collaborated with, that was the location where he met here in Massachusetts. New Bedford's Whaling Center. Frederick Law Olmsted's home. There's like 5 of them that will be meeting on Wednesdays in March at noon, from like noon to 1. And then we have a yoga series starting up on Mondays at 1. That will also be in March.
Is that virtual or live?
The yoga, yoga's live,
And
it'll
where is it?
be at Old Town Hall.
bring your mat, bring your towel to meet along.
I think this is.
I think she can adapt it to chair. So,
Well, don't they do chair yoga?
Yeah.
That's what she was just
Yeah.
saying.
so, but that's what I have for now.
Okay, good. As always, appreciate these programs. Scheduling involved. A lot of variety, which is good. Do these come from staff, from you, from patrons, recommendations?
It's a mix. Sometimes I'll have an idea, sometimes not, and they'll come to me. But, yeah.
All right. Seeing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Rita Rougeau, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And Whiteson second?
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor? Ron O'Connor, aye.
Rita Rougeau, aye.
And Whiteson, aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Great stuff.